3 days later, Alex and Nellie drove the food truck to the Todd Mountain Scenic Area. Lately, folk activities were held there, which attracted many tourists. She had thought that it would be a good business place. Nellie, like the other sellers, first had to apply for a temporary business license. She then drove into the area with the food truck and stopped at a small square. Since people had started arriving at 8 in the morning, her business was doing very well. By 10 o'clock, she had not stopped making pancakes. While Alex and Nellie were busy with the food truck, our pulled up to the gate of the scenic area. Several people stepped out of the car. One of them was Hunter, who had been scared to death by Alex in Tilly's Square a few days earlier. Hunter was followed by 2 young girls. One of the girls was Lindsay Marvel. Lindsay looked lovely in a khaki one-piece suit with a pair of pale pink sandals. The other girl looked like she was 2 or 3 years older. She was wearing a copper green dress and a pair of white mesh shoes. With her shoulder-length hair, her style looked different from Lindsay's, but she was just as beautiful. "Sister, this is Todd Mountain. The scenery here is very nice. When I was a child, I especially liked it when my father brought me here. It's even more wonderful to hear that there are folk performances today. Let's go and have a look together." Lindsay smiled and took the other girl by the hand. The girl in green nodded and said that Hunter had already bought tickets. Lindsay took the girl past the ticket office and entered through the gates to the scenic area. Hunter and his wife followed them. They were their bodyguards. "Can you see how high Todd Mountain is? There are streams, waterfalls, and all kinds of flowers on the mountain. It's very beautiful," Lindsay said to the girl in green as she pointed to the distant mountain. "Oh, it smells good. It smells like pancakes," Lindsay said as she sniffed the air. She looked around and saw a lot of tourists in front of a food truck. There seemed to be 2 people running the truck. One was making pancakes, and the other was taking drink orders from the tourists. But she couldn't see much of anything, as she was still quite far away, and there were many people around the front of the truck. "I'd like to buy one too, but there are too many people." Lindsay sighed and put her arm around the girl in green. "Let's go on ahead." The 2 girls walked forward. Alex handed a soft drink to a tourist. He looked at the people around him, as he had a feeling that something was wrong. "Hey, don't you see that someone's asking for pancakes?" Nellie reminded him, which brought his attention back. After 2 hours of touring the mountain, Lindsay and the girl in green were tired. They sat on a rock beside the mountain path to rest. Hunter took out the food that had been prepared for the 2 girls, which consisted of sandwiches and other snacks. "I don't want to eat this." Lindsay took the sandwich, but she didn't have much of an appetite. She set it down, looked at Hunter, and asked, "Can you help me buy a pancake? I'd like a pancake instead." "All right, I'll go right now. You wait here," he agreed. He had been hired by the Marvel family to protect the 2 sisters, and he had to take on the responsibility of assisting them. When someone from the family asked him for something, how could he refuse? He said to the other bodyguard, Shania, "Look after the 2 girls. I'm going to go buy pancakes." He turned to the girl in green and asked her, "Do you want one too?" "I'll just have my sandwich," she said with a smile as she shook her head. With that, Hunter walked to the scenic area by himself. They were almost a mile away from the entrance. There was a large platform where folk activities were carried out. It attracted a lot of tourists. It also had more security personnel to maintain order. When he arrived, Hunter spotted a man in uniform who looked familiar. He smiled and walked over to him. "Felix," he called out. "Hunter, what are you doing here?" Felix recognized Hunter right away. Felix and Hunter were old acquaintances. Now in their 30s, they both worked in security. When they were young, they had met through. It could be said that they shared a dark past. Later, they realized that this kind of illegal activity wasn't a long-term business. They'd signed up for a fight club together, but after the semester was over, they went their separate ways and lost contact. They hadn't expected to meet again at Todd Mountain after one had become a bodyguard for the Marvel family and the other had become the chief of security section for the Todd Mountain scenic area. "You've done well for yourself. You've become the chief of the security section. You're much more important than I am with my little bodyguard role." Hunter patted Felix on the shoulder. "Hunter, you don't need to use sarcasm. Everybody knows that the Marvel family is one of the top 5 families in Washington, D.C. You serve as a bodyguard for Miss Marvel's family. Your status is much better than mine. Hey, if you want to change positions, I'll give you my small section chief role, and you give me the bodyguard position with the Marvels," said Felix. Felix wondered if he could also work as a bodyguard for the Marvels. His friend's salary must be at least $80,000 a year. As a small section chief, all he earned was $25,000 a year, which was far less than Hunter. He considered himself quite poor. After Felix mentioned swapping positions, Hunter just laughed obscenely. "You're buying pancakes for Miss Marvel, right? Let's go. I'll go with you, and we'll talk about our old friendship," Felix volunteered. He wanted to ask Hunter whether he could work for the Marvel family. "Let's take a patrol car to save you from walking." Felix called a security guard to drive the patrol car. The 2 old friends got into the vehicle and headed for the entrance. In the car, Felix inquired about the Marvel family's news. Although Hunter listened to Felix's intention of getting employment with the Marvels, he pretended to be confused. "Okay, I'll buy pancakes for my young lady and we'll talk later." The patrol car quickly arrived at the square's gate. Hunter got out and walked toward the food truck. Alex and Nellie were busy working. There were only 3 or 4 people standing in front of the food truck. Hunter saw the small crowd, and when he arrived, he looked at the truck. Washington was full of such food trucks, so he didn't expect that the people inside it would be Alex and Nellie. When he spotted them, he remembered that a few days ago in Tilly Square, Alex had a flying blade that had cut off some of his hair. He quickly turned around and walked stiffly back to the patrol car with a sigh of relief. "What's the matter with you? Why did you walk partway there, turn around, and come back again?" Felix was puzzled. "You don't have to worry about it. By the way, aren't you the chief of security around here? Except for the administrative affairs, I manage all the affairs in the scenic area. But my life around here is quite carefree. The other day, my team members found a cell phone that a female tourist had lost. I handed it back to her in the office, but I couldn't speak her language. So I just said hello to her and fooled her into having an in-depth communication with me in the office, on the desk." Felix didn't want to be looked down by Hunter, so he tried to boast about himself. "Right on." Hunter gave Felix a thumbs up, and then pointed in the direction of the food truck. "Don't you want to work at the Marvel House? Now here's your chance to get in. I think those people over there are no good, so you can teach them a lesson. If I'm satisfied, I'll go back and talk to the Marvels. I'll let you know if a job opportunity comes up." "Okay, if that's what you say." Felix was very happy to hear about this opportunity. He looked at Alex and Nellie in the nearby food truck, and his eyes showed a trace of ruthlessness. "I'm the boss around here, and it's not a trivial thing to have 2 people here who might be up to no good." Felix got out of the car. "Hello, can I have a pancake?" As soon as Nellie was ready to have a rest, another customer walked up. She saw that he was a small security guard, so she stood up again, scooped up some dough, and began to spread out the pancake. Soon she had made it. When the security guard paid for it, Nellie handed him the pancake, and he walked away. "Alex, I'm tired. Rub my shoulders," Nellie called out as she sat in the chair. "Well, my goodness," he sighed. The more familiar their relationship became, the less polite she was to him. She often asked for a massage when she was tired. However, Alex recognized that she did have a hard life making pancakes every day, and she'd been washing his clothes, so he was willing to give her a massage. Just then, the security guard came back. He put his hand in front of Nellie and said angrily, "Hey, look what's in my pancake. Flies! How did you make these pancakes?" Alex and Nellie were surprised as they looked at the green fly in his hand that was still moving around. "Are you talking nonsense? I made the pancake. There were no flies in it when I gave it to you. Don't be so angry with me," Nellie said aloud. "Damn, there are flies in the pancakes and you're so arrogant. Let's have a look and see how hygienic your food truck is. I just ate flies out of this pancake, and now you say that I'm talking nonsense?" The security guard began to shout, and a lot of tourists quickly gathered around the truck. Other security guards also went over. Naturally, the tourists were on the security guard's side and began to accuse Alex and Nellie of being unsanitary. "How do you make the pancakes? If you can't do it right, you shouldn't do it at all. This isn't good enough to eat. It could make us sick." Alex and Nellie said nothing to the tourists. "What's the matter?" The security guard, who had gone away for a moment, returned, leading a tall man with a serious face. After listening to the security guard, Felix looked at Alex and said, "The pancakes you made are not up to standard. Now we have to impound your food truck temporarily to check whether the other products in the truck are safe." As soon as Nellie heard that the chief security guard wanted to impound her food truck, her blood surged. She was ready to scold him, but Alex stopped her. "You're the chief of the security section. You don't know if the fly flew in when we made the pancake or later. You shouldn't be so arbitrary. And you want to temporarily impound our truck? I don't think you have the right to do this." Alex saw the identification tag on Felix's jacket and felt he was acting inappropriately. "Don't talk to me about this or that. Since you're creating problems here, I have the right to tell you what to do. I'll tell you for the last time to get out of the truck right now. Don't play with me or there will be consequences," Felix threatened. He was just a humble man and he wasn't that familiar with the law. But Hunter had told him that as long as he dealt with Alex and Nellie, he would help him get a job with the Marvel family. So Felix set out to find fault with them. If they impounded the truck, they could delay returning it for any number of reasons, or they could even smash it up. The other party was just pancake sellers. How much trouble could they make? Alex was surprised that Felix was such an unreasonable person. "Hey, I can see that you're trying to seize our food truck, aren't you?" Nellie angrily pointed at Felix and said, "I think it was you who sent the security guard over to get a pancake. You're clearly trying to embarrass us. You're playing with hypocrisy here, which makes me want to spit out my breakfast." "You ugly girl. Who do you think you are? How dare you speak to me like that?" When Felix was confronted like this, he got really angry. Addressing the 6 security guards standing next to him, he said, "What are you doing standing there in a daze? Get them out of that truck and drive it away." The 6 security guards went to the food truck, opened the side door, and rushed in to grab Alex and Nellie. Alex's eyebrows shot up, and he didn't know what to do. "Go away! Bad security!" Alex pulled her away and stood in front of her to protect her. "Get him! Use the tasers!" Felix angrily shouted to several of the other security guards, who ran to the nearby duty room and grabbed some shields. He called for 3 more guards at the same time. A total of 9 security guards brandishing tasers and batons slowly approached Alex step by step. Alex didn't mean to start a fight with them, because he knew that the matter would only become more and more complicated and disadvantageous to them. However, he no longer had the right to use his family's powers. It was becoming really difficult to solve the problems that he encountered. "Please put down your weapons. We won't move." said Alex, who was still keeping Nellie behind him. He was thinking that he would later find a police officer to help get the food truck back after the security guards left. However, the guards surrounded Alex and Nellie, who stopped moving as they huddled together. Nellie had never been so close to a man. For a moment, her attention couldn't help but turn toward Alex, who was standing so close in front of her. She could feel the warmth of his broad back. She could see the black hairs on the back of his neck, which made her feel warm and also shy. "Hey, are you two making trouble again?" Felix said with a proud smile. He looked at the tourists surrounding them and said, "Look at these two dodgy vendors. There were flies in our pancakes, but they refused to admit it. They also beat up our security personnel just now. If you see these two in other places, you must not buy their food. It's not sanitary. He has no money for a proper girlfriend. Neither of them is any good, so send them to the police station." The tourists didn't know the whole story of what had taken place, so they all sided with Felix. A man who came from a distance said in a loud voice. Alex and Nellie saw that it was Hunter, who had been causing them problems in Tilly Square a few days ago. When he saw him walk up to Felix, they understood at once what was going on. If someone eats a fly out of a pancake, your response is to say that someone else framed you? Is there anyone more shameless than you in the world? Seeing that Alex and Nellie were under control, Hunter leisurely walked over and ridiculed Alex. "So, you colluded with the chief of the security section to frame us, and you have the face to say that we did it." When Alex saw Hunter swagger over, he couldn't help but curse. "What a shame, don't you think?" Alex was stuck in place by the surrounding security guards and couldn't move. Hunter was very happy. Seeing Hunter's satisfaction, Felix was relieved. It looked like he might be able to get into the Marvel family. "You go and drive the food truck away. The four of you, get these two out of here," Felix commanded his men. Several security guards were preparing to perform their respective duties when a puzzled voice came from the crowd. "What's going on here? Why are there so many people?" Hearing the voice, Hunter panicked. He recognized it as Lindsay's and knew that she was kind-hearted. If she found out that he had framed the pancake sellers, she would be angry with him. He quickly considered his predicament. According to his version of the events, it was a fact that there had been a fly in a pancake from this stand. Besides, he wasn't the one who had first approached the food truck. How could Lindsay blame him? Lindsay squeezed through the crowd that surrounded Alex and Nellie. Alex was surprised to see that who had appeared was Lindsay, whom he had rescued in the Lawrence Heights building. She looked beautiful, and her one-piece suit vividly outlined her delicate figure. Remembering that Lindsay had tried to kiss him on the day that he had saved her, he couldn't help feeling overwhelmed. "What's going on?" Lindsay first glanced at Hunter. "Miss, the pancakes they made were not hygienic. Some people found flies in them just now. Moreover, these two people were not honest at all and beat up people. This isn't allowed by the chief of security section here," Hunter explained. But when she saw that the person surrounded by the guards was Alex, she smiled. She stopped listening to Hunter and walked over to him. "It's you!" Lindsay could hardly believe her eyes. Alex smiled faintly, but he was embarrassed. "Let Miss Marvel see them," Felix said to the security guards. He was still looking forward to working for the Marvels, so he didn't dare ignore Lindsay. Several security guards stepped aside and let her walk up to Alex. "You've come to Washington. Are you looking for me?" She saw Alex's joy. As soon as she had said that, she felt that she had been too open about her feelings. She lowered her head slightly, trying to figure out what he was thinking. Alex didn't know what to say. He turned to look at Nellie and saw that she was staring back at him. He looked away, but he noticed that her eyes were twitching. He didn't know what Nellie was thinking. "I came to Washington to look for my girlfriend," Alex said to Lindsay after thinking for a few seconds. He felt that Lindsay seemed to like him a little bit too much, so he'd better set things straight as soon as possible. "Girlfriend?" Lindsay asked, as she raised her head and looked at him. Nellie was also moved. She had thought that the girlfriend Alex was looking for had been Lindsay, but now she realized that it wasn't this woman. She felt a trace of resentment. She looked at Alex and pinched his waist. "Ouch, you..." She had pinched him so hard that he frowned and glared at her, but she had turned away as if nothing had happened. However, there was a hint of a smile in the corner of her mouth. "They say your pancakes are full of flies." As soon as Lindsay said that, Nellie spoke up. "No way. I made the pancakes. There weren't any flies. It's because we offended that guy a few days ago." Nellie pointed to Hunter. "Today he colluded with this crappy section chief to deliberately come after us." "No, miss, don't listen to her. I've just arrived here. I don't know what she's talking about," Hunter said, while Felix was motionless and kept his mouth shut. "Well, Miss Marvel, one of our security guards bought a pancake from her," Felix finally tried to explain. He couldn't admit that he had framed Alex and Nellie, otherwise he would lose his chance of working for the family. And judging from the relationship between Lindsay and Alex, he might even lose his position as the chief of security of the Todd Mountain area. "You're just blowing smoke," Nellie said with a scowl as she pointed at Felix. Now that Lindsay was there, Felix didn't dare to be as arrogant as before. "Pay attention to your words. Washington is a civilized city. You're no good here," Felix said, and then he addressed the onlookers. "Just now we all saw that our security guard found flies in his pancake. Didn't you see it?" "Yes, I saw it. I saw it. It was so disgusting." "Nonsense. Where are the flies?" Nellie said aloud. "Well, you're still quibbling. Here, I've been holding it." The security guard who bought the pancake held it up in his hand and showed the green fly that was still moving. "Look, the fly in his hand is still alive. Think about it. If there had been a fly in the pancake when I made it, how would it have survived in the pan?" Nellie said aloud. "The fly would have been burned to death when she made the pancake." "Yes, I didn't think of that before. We shouldn't blame them." The tourists were all making comments. "You shouldn't confuse the public. It may be that you made the pancake and then a fly flew into it when you were wrapping it up." Felix felt that the situation was turning against him, and he was flustered. "You're blowing smoke. Do you know how hot the pan that I use to make pancakes gets? People don't even want to get close to it. Do you think flies would come near it?" Nellie rebutted. "Yes, it does get very hot. Every time I buy pancakes, I always stand 6 feet away." "Flies aren't that stupid." "It's the security guards that framed this couple." The comments from the onlookers completely reversed, and they accused the security guards. "Let me ask you, have you ever found a fly in a pancake?" Lindsay asked the security guard. "My name is Lindsay Marvel, and the Washington, D.C. Tonka Group belongs to my family. If you lie to me, the consequences will be very serious." When the crowd of onlookers heard the beautiful woman say that she was a member of the Marvel family, they looked at her with awe and admiration. They also found her quite fearsome. Lindsay was just trying to scare the security guard and make sure that Alex was treated fairly. She was usually a peaceful person and rarely got angry. The guard became very worried. His face turned red and he started shivering. Felix and Hunter were standing nervously beside him. They didn't know what to do. It's not my fault. The chief asked me to catch a fly and frame them." The security guard broke down and admitted it. The Tenuco group was well known in Washington. It wasn't a good idea to offend the Marvel family. Lindsay looked at Felix, and Felix's heart thumped and almost jumped out of his throat. It wasn't my idea. It was Hunter who asked me to do it. Yes, he ordered me to do it. Felix was also afraid of offending the Marvels. Lindsay shifted her attention toward Hunter. Hunter was flustered. He quickly approached Lindsay and apologized. I'm sorry, Miss Marvel. I just made such a stupid thing because I was so confused. Please don't be angry. Nellie sharply retorted. Miss Marvel, don't believe him. This man ordered pancakes from me in Tilly Square a few days ago. He refused to pay for them, and then he was going to beat us up. Fortunately, Alex was stronger than him. Otherwise, we'd be in the hospital now. Listening to Nellie expose his actions in front of Lindsay, Hunter felt like he was going to die. Hunter, is that true? Lindsay asked him. Hunter felt that his future was hanging from a thread. He didn't know what to say. He stammered. Well, in fact, there was a reason for everything. At that time, I felt she was playing games with me. She later put shoe polish in my pancakes. Needless to say, Lindsay said, interrupting Hunter, you must go back and tell my father to arrange a new job for you. Oh no, Miss Marvel, please forgive me this once. I promise I won't make the same mistake again. Hunter pleaded with her and said in a panic that he didn't have a diploma or very much education. Apart from being a bodyguard, there was no other job he could do for the Marvel family. If he reported to her father that he'd been dismissed by Lindsay, what would they do with him? It would be questionable whether they would continue employing him. It's not me that you should be apologizing to, Lindsay said. Yes. Hunter went over to Alex and Nellie and anxiously said, I'm sorry. Please accept my apology. I'm a big fool. I deserve to eat shoe polish. Hunter scolded himself mercilessly in front of Alex and finally added, I've scolded myself hard enough. You two shouldn't still be angry with me. Hunter was just about to go on talking when he heard Nellie say, What? We shouldn't be angry anymore? How can you say this so easily? You just slapped Alex twice. Why should we help you now by not being angry anymore? As long as you two help me later, I'll let you slap me, Hunter said, extending his face in front of Alex. But Alex was no longer interested in playing along. Fight! Nellie looked at Hunter's face and her hands itched. Forget it, I don't want to fight anymore, said Alex. You are kind-hearted. I'd like to thank you for that. Hunter was overjoyed to hear that Alex didn't want to fight. How humiliating it would be if he were beaten up in front of so many people. He wanted to get his reputation back. You're such a fool. I think you deserve to be beaten up by this kind of guy, Nellie told Alex. She grabbed Hunter's ear with one hand and said bitterly, He won't dare beat me now. Just as she said that, she raised her other hand and slapped him twice in the face. Hunter felt the burning pain on his cheek. He wanted to hit Nellie with his backhand. However, when he thought that he would still ask Alex and Nellie to help him get his job back, he could only say that it was a good fight. Can you ask my lady for a favor? Hunter was smiling, and his face was red and swollen. You want us to intercede for you? Oh, you're so special, Nellie said with a proud smile as she stood there with her arms crossed. Oh, you. Hunter swallowed the dirty words that had already reached his throat and said, You've already slapped me in the face, and now you should help me. So, because I hit you, now you think I should help you? You shameless, rotten man, Nellie scoffed. Hunter wanted to punch her. He looked at Alex again. His talent is Miss Marvel's friend. If he can speak up for me, Miss Marvel won't punish me, he thought. Sir, please help me beg for mercy, he implored Alex. He thought Alex would be good at pleading his case, but he didn't expect him to stand there and ignore his words. Alex was broad-minded, but it didn't mean that he was stupid. Hunter had a problem with his character, so Alex wouldn't help him. Well, Hunter, you don't have to say more. Just go back to my father, said Lindsay. There was nothing more that Hunter could do. He walked away feeling dejected. All he wanted now was to come up with something clever to say when he met with the Marvel boss. Now that the problem is solved, can you make me a pancake? Lindsay looked at Alex with a smile. I'll make it for you, Nellie replied. If it weren't for Lindsay, she and Alex would be miserable that day. Nellie looked at Alex and Lindsay, and she recognized that they were old acquaintances. She glanced at Alex again and went into the food truck to make the pancakes. Thank you. If it wasn't for you today, I really don't know what we would have done, Alex said to Lindsay with a faint smile. No, if it hadn't been for you the last time, maybe I... Lindsay abruptly stopped as she thought back to when she was nearly raped by Manager Geller at the Lawrence Heights building. It still felt like a nightmare to her. Thinking of Alex's incredible rescue that day, she smiled. I remember your kindness toward me, and I haven't forgotten it for a second. I'm very happy to see you again. She spoke shyly and timidly, like a young girl. Alex watched her and found her both naive and romantic. Miss Marvel, your pancakes are ready. Nellie picked them up and brought them to her. You should carry on sightseeing on the mountain. We're going to carry on working. She smiled at Lindsay and took Alex back into the food truck. Lindsay looked at them and sadly started walking away. Lindsay, did you get your pancakes? When they'd finished their meal and Lindsay hadn't yet returned, the girl in green and the other bodyguard, Shania, had gone looking for her. When Alex heard the girl in green's voice, he was stunned. He felt a burning heat in his chest, and his heart started pounding. He turned his head and looked in the direction of the sound. Hello, Alex. What are you looking at? Miss Marvel's beautiful. I can see that your eyes are flying out of your head. It's a shame. Nellie's words were full of jealousy. Alex didn't listen to what Nellie was saying to him. He saw the girl in green who had been talking. He was ecstatic and began to tremble. He could hardly believe what his eyes were telling him. But the girl in green wasn't the Debbie he was looking for. Debbie! Alex was overjoyed as he ran toward her. What are you doing? Asked Shania. The bodyguard that was standing next to Debbie was surprised when she saw a young man rushing toward the young lady. When he passed her, she grabbed him and threw him to the ground. What do you think you're doing? Shania asked again as she immobilized him. Shania, let go of him. He's a good man. Lindsay hurriedly said as she rushed back. Debbie, I found you. I'm sorry. I didn't protect you well. Do you hate me in your heart? Alex looked at the girl and kept repeating himself, hoping that she would forgive him. Debbie was startled by Alex's sudden appearance. She looked at him in horror as she was unable to understand his behavior. Shania, let him stand up. He won't hurt my sister, Lindsay said. The bodyguard held Alex's hands and made him stand up. What did you say? She's your sister? Alex was shocked. Yes, she's my sister, Leona Marvel, and not what you said, Debbie. You have the wrong person, Lindsay said in a puzzled way. No way, you're mistaken. Alex looked at Debbie and pleaded. I'm sorry, Debbie. It was my fault before. I should die. Please come back to me. I want to make up for my past mistakes. Can you give me another chance? But Debbie didn't seem to understand what Alex was saying to her. He looked like a madman to her. "I'm sorry. I'm really not the Debbie that you're looking for. I'm Leona." "I guess the Debbie that you're looking for looks like me, does she?" Leona calmly asked with a smile. How could he not recognize his own girlfriend? Although he couldn't figure out why she didn't seem to know him, he refused to give up. He said assertively, "Debbie, why don't you recognize me? I'm Alex." "Alex?" Leona looked surprised. She looked curiously at him as he blushed. She really couldn't remember ever meeting this young man before. He said, "Have you forgotten the day that we had vegetable risotto together at the edge of Ramsey Lake, and then you bought rotten fruits for me? Or when you tried to help me repay Mr. Morgan's money by going to work in that restaurant? Then do you remember we went for treatment together on Harmony Island? And then we came back and lived together in the villa? Have you forgotten all these things?" He was desperately trying to remind her of their life together. "I'm sorry, but I don't know what you're talking about. I don't remember any of that." She shook her head. She didn't understand why this strange man in front of her was acting as if he was in love with her. "Don't punish me like this, Debbie. I know I treated you badly. Are you punishing me because I didn't protect you? Beat me, yell at me, but please don't pretend to not know me. I really can't live without you," he begged her. He thought that she must be pretending not to know him. His heart felt like it was being cut in two. "I'm not pretending that I don't know you. I really don't remember you," Leona said. She was starting to feel a bit uncomfortable with this strange man. "Debbie, I beg you not to punish me anymore," Alex pleaded. Then he suddenly remembered the necklace that he had given her and that she had always regarded as a treasure. She had written about it many times in her diary and said that she would never take it off. He was positive that she would be wearing it right then. He said, "Actually, I have a way to prove that you're my girlfriend, Debbie. I gave you the necklace that you're wearing right now. Show it to me." "My necklace?" Leona was stunned. She reached under her top and pulled out the necklace that she always wore. Looking at Alex, she asked, "Did you buy this necklace for me?" Alex was surprised when he saw the necklace that she pulled out. Although it was a diamond necklace, it was square, and the one that he had given her was a diamond shape. Her bodyguards stared in wonder at Alex and said, "Hey, what are you talking about? Our boss bought that necklace for her. Are you trying to claim that you bought it?" "No way. It's impossible," Alex started to say. He thought to himself, "Debbie would never take off the necklace I gave her. Maybe this girl in front of me really isn't her." His heart was breaking with the terrible thought that he hadn't found her after all. "Miss Marvel, let's go. This guy's crazy." The bodyguard pushed Alex aside and went over to Leona. "Debbie, don't leave," Alex begged. He wasn't ready to give up on the idea that this girl could be Debbie, but Lindsay stood in front of him, blocking him from getting close to her. "Alex, calm down," she said. "My sister really isn't your girlfriend. I understand that you must miss your girlfriend terribly." She was concerned for Alex. She continued, "I'm going to take my sister home now. Take care of yourself and I'll come to check on you soon." Lindsay then took Leona's arm and led her out of the gate along with 2 bodyguards. One of the bodyguards was laughing. "Hey, it's so funny that guy was pretending to be Miss Marvel's boyfriend." The other said, "I reckon that he's been watching too much reality TV and thinking it's all true. He thought that if he pretended to be stupid, the rich lady would like him." "Yeah, but his acting skills were so bad. He must have thought we were all idiots to fall for that," replied the first one. Everyone watching assumed that Alex fancied Leona and was trying to get her to fall for him with his performance. They all looked at him with contempt, mumbled criticism, and then left. After Leona and Lindsay had gone, Alex was heartbroken. He stood where he was and cried, "Debbie! Debbie, don't you love me anymore?" Nellie suddenly approached him and said to him with a sneer, "You idiot. I thought you were poor but kind-hearted. I didn't expect you to be such a shameless—" "I'm not," he replied angrily. "I wouldn't blame you, though. You saw that Miss Marvel is beautiful and that she's from a wealthy family. I'm not surprised you put on that little performance to try to win her over. Anyone would want to be part of that family if they could," she replied. "Nonsense. I'm sure that she really is my girlfriend. Anyway, I'm from a wealthy family myself. I don't need to trick myself into someone else's family," he retorted angrily. She still didn't believe him. She said, "You're crazy. Miss Marvel told you clearly that she doesn't know you at all. Yet you're still arguing about it, and now you're trying to tell me that you come from a super rich family yourself. If you can give me $5,000 right now, I might believe you. Go on, prove yourself." Alex didn't respond. Nellie sneered and said, "Ha! If you really were rich, it wouldn't be a problem at all. If I'm right, and it's all make-believe, you better give up on your daydreams and come and sell pancakes with me." She pulled him into the food truck, and he started helping her to cook pancakes. But he couldn't stop thinking about Debbie. He was sure it was her, but he knew that he had to let it go for now. He knew that she had gone home with Lindsay. Lindsay was sitting with Leona in her room, and they were discussing what had just happened. She was confused and had a lot of questions for her sister. She took her hand and asked, "Leona, do you really know that guy, Alex?" Leona shook her head and looked at her anxiously. She said, "No, I don't remember him at all." She thought for a moment and then said, "Do you think I knew him before I lost my memory? Maybe I did and I've just forgotten about him now." Lindsay laughed a little awkwardly and said, "No way. You've been living with me and Dad since before you lost your memory. You've never had a boyfriend at all, so you can't be his girlfriend." "Yes, that's true. Although I lost my memory, you and Dad know everything about my past. If he was my boyfriend, you would know about him," Leona said, trying to reassure herself. "Leona, do you remember that I told you that when I rented an apartment in New York, I was attacked by the lettings manager who was saved by a guy who I called a hero? That hero who saved me was Alex." Lindsay became a bit emotional when she recalled that moment. Leona replied, "Really? Then he's a good man." She noticed that when Lindsay talked about Alex, she had a twinkle in her eyes, and her expression was full of happiness. She asked her in a low voice, "Lindsay, do you like him?" Lindsay blushed as she looked at her shyly and said, "What are you saying? Of course not. Don't talk nonsense." Leona smiled and said, "I think it's you that's talking nonsense, right?" Then she suddenly remembered something and her smile faded. She looked at Lindsay and said sympathetically, "It's a pity that you have to marry Mr. Drake. You really don't want to, do you?" "No," Lindsay replied and frowned. 2 tears slid down her cheeks. Lindsay said sympathetically, "If you don't want to marry him, you should tell him." "No, don't worry about me. I don't want to get married, but I'm sure it'll be okay. The Drakes are the wealthiest people in Washington, D.C. It'll be so good for our family. I don't think I can refuse." Her sad smile was so beautiful that Leona was moved. She loved her sister dearly, but didn't agree with her on this. She took a pendant out from the drawer of the bedside table. It was a jade pendant in the shape of a phoenix, and was transparent but changed from green to white in the sunlight. It was the piece of jewelry that Carla Stonehill had given Debbie that day in the hospital. Leona put the pendant against her chest and gently rubbed it. She said to Lindsay, "I really love this jade pendant and I'm very attached to it. Why doesn't Dad let me wear it?" Lindsay replied with a faint smile. "Didn't he say that it was made by an expert when you were born? You have to keep it by your bed and it'll protect you. If you wear it, the aura will be lessened." "Really? I'm not sure I believe that," Leona said suspiciously. "Don't think about it too much. You know that Dad and I would never do anything to harm you," Lindsay comforted her. Then she took out her cell phone and said, "Let's watch the show together." After his busy day, Alex returned to his rental room and lay in bed. His mind kept playing over what had happened that afternoon with Leona. He couldn't work out if she really was Debbie. He felt like he was going mad. Despite everything, he was still sure that Leona and Debbie were the same person. He thought, Debbie and I have known each other for so long and we were so close. Of course I would recognize her anywhere. How could I be wrong? I just don't believe it. And I don't believe that two people could look so similar. He began to check information about the Marvel family in Washington on his cell phone. They were the owners of the world-famous Marvel Business Corporation, and it meant that they were one of the top 5 wealthiest families in the city. This meant that they were also one of the most powerful. These facts were irrelevant to Alex. He didn't care how wealthy the Marvels were. There was only one person that he had any interest in, and that was Debbie. He discovered that the Marvel family owned a mansion in the exclusive gated community of Arlington Heights. He decided that he would go there to wait for Debbie and try to talk to her again. He felt that as long as he demonstrated sincerity and determination, she would surely be moved and would forgive him. With this plan in mind, he started to calm down, and he told himself that he should feel happy. At least he now knew where Debbie was and that she was safe and well. He pulled the comforter over his head and quickly fell asleep. Over the following weeks, Alex went every day to work on the pancake food truck, but he also spent several hours each day waiting for Debbie at the gates of Arlington Heights. Although he had not seen her, he did inquire with the security guard of the community, who confirmed that Leona Marvel did live there. He decided that he would wait for her as long as he needed to. One particular day, Alex and Nellie were working on the pancake food truck in the front of the Kennedy Center. During the morning, they had done well, but in the afternoon the weather became colder, and it looked as if it was going to rain. The number of tourists dwindled. At 4:30 that afternoon, Alex said to Nellie, "Business is really slow now. You'll be fine on your own. I'm going to go." He removed his apron and hat and prepared to leave. Nellie knew that Alex was planning to go back to wait for Debbie at Arlington Heights, and she said coldly, "It's not time for you to go yet. If you leave now, I'll deduct $50 from your pay." But Alex didn't want to miss the chance of seeing Debbie again for the sake of $50. He said, "That's fine. I'm sorry, but I'm going." Then he left. Watching Alex walk away, Nellie murmured, "Alex, you loser. You're still chasing after Miss Marvel. Off you go, back to your daydream." When she sat back down in the food cart, she felt very lonely. "Man, here we go again," said the security guard as soon as he saw Alex. The security guard of Arlington Heights recognized him and took the initiative to say hello. Alex gave a polite smile and nodded as the man asked, "Are you looking for Miss Marvel again?" Alex didn't hide it. Maybe these security guards could provide him with some information about Debbie. The guard said with his smile, "Hey, you know you're making a bit of a fool of yourself, but at least you're keeping us entertained." On the other side, 2 more security guards were approaching. They all recognized Alex. One said, "Well, it looks like Alex is here again looking for Miss Marvel." The other replied, "Look at his clothes. That shirt hasn't been in fashion for at least a decade." His companion laughed and said to Alex, "Hey buddy, weren't you selling pancakes earlier today?" I'm sure you earn tens of thousands a month doing that. What makes you think you're good enough for Miss Marvel?" Seeing that Alex was dressed in scruffy clothes, and knowing that he worked at the pancake truck, the security guards couldn't understand how he had the nerve to try to visit Leona in her home. They thought he must be crazy. Alex couldn't be bothered to argue with them. During his 7 years of poverty training, he had been ridiculed and insulted numerous times, and he knew how to ignore it. The only thing he cared about was convincing Debbie to forgive him and go back with him. He sat quietly on the curb opposite the front gate of the community and waited. "This kid's in a dream," one of the guards said. Another said, "I think he must know that the Marvel family is in a hurry to find Miss Leona's husband. He must think he has a chance. What's he thinking of? Doesn't he realize they're looking for someone from a decent family in Washington, not a little loser who sells pancakes? You have to give him credit that he has the to keep trying." A young security guard looked puzzled and asked his companions, "By the way, why are the Marvels so anxious to find Miss Leona's husband? She's not very old, only about 20. A middle-aged guard answered, "Who knows? Anyway, I've heard that over the last month, she's been on a few dates with men from wealthy families. I think Mr. Marvel wants to strengthen his family by marrying his daughters off and forming alliances with other powerful families." When Alex heard the conversation between the 3 security guards, he was shocked. Thinking about the Marvel family's eagerness to find a husband for Leona, who he was convinced was Debbie, he was very worried and felt he had to do something urgently. At that moment, some claps of thunder sounded in the sky, and a few drops of rain started to fall. A black Volkswagen Touareg slowly pulled up to the gate of Arlington Heights, and a tall, athletic-looking young man stepped out. He was wearing a smart white shirt, trousers, and highly polished shoes, and his skin was pale and clean-looking. As he stepped out of the car, he took out his cell phone and then pressed the call button and said, "Hello, Miss Marvel. It's Daryl Brennan. Did your father tell you about me? Well, I'm at the main gate now. I'll drive in to pick you up." "No? Oh, okay, well, I'll wait for you outside the gate. By the way, it's raining outside. Please remember to bring an umbrella." After ending the call, he smiled. When he had heard that the Marvel family was anxious to find their daughter a husband, he was determined to give it a shot. Although his family also ranked in the top 100 wealthiest families in Washington, he knew that they were still inferior to the Marvels. It would be a great boost to his family and their business empire if he could marry Leona. With this in mind, his father met with Leona's father and convinced him to let her go on a blind date with his son. Naturally, Daryl was determined to make the most of this opportunity and to make a good impression on Leona. He had heard that she had already been on 6 blind dates with eligible young men from wealthy families and had rejected all of them. Daryl was very much looking forward to this challenge. As he waited, he noticed a scruffy young man sitting on the curb staring at him. He felt irritated and swore at him. "What are you staring at, you piece of shit?" Alex looked at him coldly. Daryl said angrily, "I asked you what you're staring at. You looking for a fight?" He was about to go over and teach the guy a lesson when one of the security guards smiled and advised him, "Don't worry, Daryl, forget him. Don't waste your time on someone like him." "Yes, you're right. I have nothing to worry about with a loser like him," Daryl said as he stopped, sneered, and then turned and looked at the security guard. He asked, "Do you know who he is?" "I think he's the pancake seller." The younger security guard added, "Yes, he is. And Daryl, you know, this pancake seller's been hanging around at the gate of our community for the past 4 or 5 days. He says he's waiting to see Miss Marvel. I think he thinks he might have a chance with her." Daryl couldn't help but laugh as he looked scornfully at Alex and said with a smile, "Are you really waiting for Miss Marvel? Man, you are cracking me up. Are you trying to make me laugh to death? Just look at your clothes. You look like you're homeless." How much do you make a month selling pancakes? Is it enough to even pay your rent? Yet you have the front to want to see Miss Marvel. Listen, the truth is that you're not even good enough to wipe her shoes." The security guards were smiling. They were amused, but also wanted to flatter Daryl by laughing at his jokes. One said, "Daryl's right. This guy is a total loser. He's not nearly good enough to meet Miss Marvel. She's so beautiful and takes such good care of herself. She and Daryl will be a perfect match." Daryl was very flattered to hear these words, and they put him in a better mood. One of the security guards suddenly whispered to him, "Daryl, here comes Miss Marvel." He immediately composed himself and looked in the direction that the security guard had indicated. Leona was walking toward him wearing shorts and a t-shirt and carrying an umbrella. She looked so beautiful that his eyes were popping out of his head. She looked like a movie star. "Hello, Miss Marvel, I'm Daryl," he introduced himself. "Hello, I'm Leona," she said with a smile. When Alex saw her, he couldn't contain his excitement. He rushed over to her and shouted, "Debbie!" "What are you doing?" Daryl demanded as he stepped in front of Leona and glared at Alex. Alex ignored him. He looked at Leona and said, "Debbie, I'm Alex. Try to remember. Have you forgotten when you were at Preston University and Madison Robbins and her friends were bullying you, and I helped you teach them a lesson? Or when your mother, Carla, came to visit you in New York and I met her with you?" He thought that if he reminded her of times that they had experienced together, she might feel affectionate toward him and finally acknowledge him. Daryl pushed Alex away, shouting, "What are you doing? Get out of here, you loser! Do you really think you can pursue Miss Marvel? Go back to your daydream." "Debbie, I'm Alex. Please forgive me," Alex begged bitterly. "Who are you calling Debbie? This is Miss Leona Marvel. You know what? I think you are crazy. Do you think Miss Marvel knows someone like you? Get out of here and don't bother us again. Next time we won't be so polite to you," Daryl said angrily. He stood in front of Leona to protect her and prepared to punch Alex. Leona stepped forward and said, "Daryl, leave it. I thought you were here to take me to dinner. Let's go." Although she thought that Alex was a crazy person, her sister Lindsay had told her that he had saved her from a in New York. She also felt sorry for him and didn't want him to be bullied. "Okay, if that's what you want," Daryl said gently to Leona, and he helped her into the car. Alex tried to rush over to the car to pull her out. He cried, "Debbie, don't get in the car with him. Come back." Daryl sneered and pushed him aside. As he climbed into the driver's seat, he said, "Go away. Miss Marvel doesn't know you at all. Stop making a fool of yourself, okay? Now I'm going to take her out for dinner. We're going somewhere that you'll never be able to afford, which shows the difference between me and you. You can never treat her how she deserves. Now get lost." He started the car and slowly drove away. One of the security guards laughed and said to Alex, "You loser. So, you finally met Miss Marvel today, but she didn't seem to know you. Daryl came to pick her up in his brand new Volkswagen Touareg. How did you get here? Did you take the number 11 bus?" joked another. The third security guard joined in. He said, "Daryl's invited Miss Marvel to the best restaurant in town. It would cost a month of our wages to eat there. How do you think you could afford that? Even if you're lucky enough to meet Miss Marvel, where are you going to invite her to eat? Will you buy her pancakes?" Alex couldn't stand listening to what the three men were saying. He became increasingly agitated as he thought about Debbie dating other men. He felt so frustrated. He knew that he had finally found her. There was no way he could lose her to another man. "Debbie, you can't go on a date with him," he roared after the car. He noticed that there were public bicycles available to rent nearby. He ran over and grabbed one, and rode after the car. One of the guards muttered, "He really is a loser. That idiot doesn't even have his own bike, does he?" Another said, "What a waste of space. When he got here, he said, 'I can drive the most expensive car, or even the cheapest car, but that won't make a difference to my Debbie.'" Oh, man. I think we've just met the best comedian in Washington, D.C. We should feel lucky. I think we might see that little loser on the comedy shows on TV one day, said the other. Alex cycled through the rain to the best restaurant in the city. There were no public bike stands around, so he had to push his bike into the lobby. The Eden was one of the best restaurants in Washington. The people who went to eat there were all from upper-class families. Luxury cars, such as BMWs, Audis, and Porsches, were parked in front of the door. Alex, who was soaking wet, shamelessly pushed his rental bike into the entrance of the restaurant. Everyone turned to look at him. One man scoffed. "Can you believe that they're letting that guy in with his bike?" His friend said, "It's not even his bike. It's a public rental bike. It looks like the boy can't even afford his own bicycle. What's he doing somewhere like this?" "I don't think he came here to eat, but to look for work outside the building. I heard that there's a shortage of cleaners. That must be why he's here," said another. Alex ignored the taunts of the people around him. He put his bike to one side and walked into the dining area. He was immediately stopped by the maitre d', who said, "What are you doing here?" He thought Alex looked like a homeless man who could never afford to eat in the restaurant, and he was dripping with rainwater. Of course, he could never let such a person in. Alex said desperately. The thought of Debbie sitting and eating with Daryl was unbearable. The maitre d' replied, "Girlfriend? Can you believe this thinks he has a girlfriend who can afford to eat here? Is your girlfriend really here?" "Yeah, she's probably only just gone in. She was with Mr. Brennan," Alex said. "You mean Daryl?" the man replied and sneered at him. "You're trying to tell me that the gorgeous girl with Daryl is your girlfriend? You're dreaming, aren't you? People will put off their dinner if I let you in there." "She is really my girlfriend," insisted Alex. Okay, so she's your girlfriend. Could you please just get away from our restaurant to carry on your dream elsewhere? Stop blocking our doorway. You're affecting our business," the man said, and tried to push Alex out of the way. Leona, who was dining in the restaurant, saw what was happening and felt sorry for Alex. But she was still a little afraid of him. She was not the Debbie that he was looking for, and she couldn't think how she could help him. Daryl, who was sitting opposite Leona, noticed that she was distracted by something going on at the door, and he called softly to her. She turned around, answered him, and continued to eat. He chatted to her. "The braised carp is a famous dish here. Try it, it's delicious." "Okay," Leona said, nodding slightly. Since first stepping into his car, she had now spent nearly an hour with Daryl, and she didn't feel anything for him. After the meal, she would let him down gently. "Ah!" she cried as a figure suddenly appeared in the window beside her, startling her. As she calmed down, she saw that it was Alex. "Debbie, don't be afraid. It's me, Alex," he hollered, squashing his face to the window. He could see that he had frightened her and felt terrible. "Leona, don't be scared. I'll ask the manager to get rid of him," Daryl said. He looked at Alex angrily through the window, stood up and walked away from the table. He found the restaurant manager and led him to the door, where he pointed at Alex and said, "Get rid of him. He's ruining my meal with Miss Marvel." The manager nodded and directed several security guards over to Alex. They tried to move him, and it ended in a scuffle. Finally, one of them shocked him with a taser, and he fell to the ground. They grabbed him by the arms and legs and carried him over to the road. "Let me go! Debbie, I'm Alex. I need to talk to you, he shouted. He was still trying to get Debbie to forgive him. Daryl watched him being carried away by the security guards and sneered proudly. This had no right to pursue Leona. Only bachelors like him from wealthy families had that right. This from the street was dreaming. Suddenly he heard, "Let him go." Leona had been watching everything that had happened to Alex. She had seen how crazy he looked, and she was a little afraid of him, but she also knew that he still thought that she was his girlfriend. She felt sorry for him, particularly when she watched the security guards dealing with him so aggressively and even using a taser on him. He looked so pathetic when they picked him up and carried him to the road that she just couldn't bear it. "Miss Marvel, but he—" Daryl started to persuade Leona that Alex wasn't worth worrying about. But then he saw how upset she was. He didn't want her to think he was rude or uncaring, so he stopped himself and said, "Well, I can see that you're worried about him. I guess he just wants to ask you for money. Of course, we can't give him money, but maybe we should invite him to dinner with us." Daryl thought to himself, Leona's gentle and kind-hearted. She must feel pity for this. Perhaps to impress her, I should demonstrate that I'm also caring and compassionate. If she thinks that I'm like her, she's bound to fall for me. "Hey guys, put him down," Daryl yelled to the 4 security guards who were carrying Alex. They looked at him doubtfully, but dropped Alex onto the ground. He got up and ran straight to Leona, shouting, "Debbie!" When Leona saw him running toward her, she subconsciously moved behind Daryl, which made him very happy. He thought it was a very good sign. "Stop." He reached out to block Alex and said, "Let me explain to you once again that this lady is Leona Marvel, not Debbie. You have to stop dreaming. Do you understand?" Alex looked at Leona hiding behind Daryl and was bitterly disappointed. He couldn't understand why she wouldn't admit who she was and that she did know him. For now, all he could do was accept what Daryl was saying before he was thrown onto the street again. He looked at Leona and then nodded. Daryl told him, "Okay, good. As long as you understand. However, Miss Marvel feels sorry for you, so I'm inviting you to come in and have dinner with us." He looked snootily at Alex and then walked back into the restaurant with Leona. Alex watched Leona walk away and then followed them inside. The other guests were shocked to see him walk over and sit down at Leona and Daryl's table. Daryl called the waiter over and said to him, "Order whatever you want. Don't worry about the cost. Today, you're our guest." He was very proud of himself for finding a way to use this annoying situation with Alex to make himself look good in front of Leona, when he noticed Leona gazing at him in confusion. He stopped for a second and said, "Debbie, do you really not recognize me?" "Do you not want to eat here or something?" Daryl said angrily as he glared at Alex. The audacity of this boy was unbelievable. Leona looked harshly at Daryl, and he was quiet. Then she looked at Alex and said with a small smile, "It's not that I don't remember you, but that I've never met you before. My name is Leona, not Debbie." What she didn't tell him was that she had lost her memory. She was convinced that Alex was a stranger and didn't want to share such intimate information with strangers. Alex was completely at a loss. He couldn't see any sign of deception in Leona's eyes. Was she really not Debbie? For the first time, Alex considered that this might be a possibility. He thought, but they were as alike as 2 peas in a pod. I don't believe that 2 strangers can look so identical. Debbie must be testing me. That must be what's going on. Aren't you going to order? If you're not hungry, please leave now and don't ruin my date with Miss Marvel, Daryl said to him with some hostility. She won't date you. She's just having dinner with you because she had to, Alex said. How dare you talk to me like that? Daryl was furious. He was from a wealthy family while Alex was a from the streets. I'm telling you the truth because you don't deserve her at all. She's way too good for you, Alex said. I dare you to say one more word, Daryl roared. Alex was provoking him, but Leona was scared by his temper. He immediately apologized to her. Miss Marvel, I'm sorry I scared you. Are you okay? Alex also asked her with concern. What do you care? Daryl looked at Alex and sneered. Then he said to Leona, Oh, I see. Miss Marvel, I heard from the security guard of your community that this man has been waiting at the gate to see you. He wants to be your boyfriend. It's ridiculous. By that time, many of the guests were looking at Daryl's table to see what the uproar was about. The manager and waiter were looking over nervously, too. Yes, I'm in love with her. What's wrong with that? Alex said confidently. There was a burst of laughter around him. Someone from a nearby table said, What, this wants to date Miss Marvel? Is he crazy? The Marvel family is one of the top 5 families in Washington, D.C. He's got no chance with her. His friend told him, I heard that her father wants to find her a husband really quickly. All the young men in the city want to date her, but most don't dare even ask because they know they're not good enough. She's already dated 5 or 6 rich young men and hasn't accepted any of them. What makes this loser think he has a chance? Daryl looked at Alex with a sneer and said, You're clearly delusional. Then he turned to the manager and said, Take him out. Miss Marvel and I thought he was a poor man and wanted to treat him to a decent meal, but he's actually a complete lunatic. The manager took out his walkie-talkie to call the security guards in to remove Alex from the restaurant. He stopped when Alex suddenly said to Daryl in a loud voice, I came here to talk with Miss Marvel, not with you. She hasn't spoken yet. Why don't we give her a chance to say what she wants? Then he looked at Leona and said, Miss Marvel, would it be okay if I ask you out? Oh, I've heard it all now. You must be joking, Daryl said with a cough. He looked at Leona and added, Miss Marvel, please get rid of her. Everyone's eyes were focused on her. They were laughing and sneering at Alex. How could someone so lowly ask for a date with someone from the Marvel family? They already knew what her answer would be. Okay, she said softly. She had seen the perseverance in Alex's eyes. And even more, she just couldn't bear to let this poor man be laughed at by everyone anymore. Also, he had saved Lindsay in New York. In the end, she simply followed what her heart was telling her. The other diners were stunned and looked at Leona with shock. Their smiles froze on their faces. What? Miss Marvel, you... Daryl stuttered as he looked at her in amazement. She looked around at everyone staring at her and said, I'm allowed to choose my own boyfriend. He's a man, so of course he can ask me out. Whether I accept or not is another matter entirely. Daryl relaxed as he felt he understood what she was saying. She just felt sorry for him because everyone was laughing at him. He felt relieved as he looked at Alex and said, Well, since Miss Marvel said you can ask her out, I have nothing more to say. As she said, any man can ask her. Don't feel that you're anything special. We all know that you'll turn him down, he said to the other diners, who all nodded in approval. Looking back at Alex, he continued with a sneer. What you don't understand is that you need resources if you want to date someone like Miss Marvel. She's accustomed to a certain standard of living. And you need to be able to treat her to fine meals and gifts. A loser like you will never make her happy. I have much more money than you, and I will take very good care of her, Alex replied calmly. More money than me? If you can take out $500 right now, I will admit that I'm wrong. Go on, prove me wrong, Daryl challenged him. No problem, Alex replied, and then froze as he remembered that his bank card had been frozen again by his family. Daryl sneered and said, Go on then, get the money. You can do it on your phone. $500 isn't much. My money's been frozen and I can't take it out for the time being, Alex explained calmly to Leona. I bet his account's been frozen because he can't pay off his debts, laughed Daryl. Someone else shouted, If you live on credit, how on earth do you think you can compete with Daryl? Alex was devastated when he saw that Leona was looking at him suspiciously. He said anxiously, Honestly, I'm not lying. I have a lot of money in my account, but my card is frozen. Daryl chuckled and said sarcastically, Well, of course I believe you. Of course your card is just frozen, and you have a lot of money in your account. The other diners were finding the whole scene hilarious, and were all laughing riotously at Alex's expense. Alex didn't care what any of them thought. When he looked at Leona, her eyes flickered and she looked away. He was very anxious when he realized that she thought he was lying. Daryl was enjoying himself as he continued. If you want to go out with Miss Marvel, you at least need to be able to take her out for a decent meal. From what I've seen, I don't think you can. So, tell us, can you treat her to a nice meal? Of course I can. You don't have to interrogate me, Alex said angrily. Good. Now that you say yes, you can invite Miss Marvel to dinner right now. You're lucky because we haven't had our main courses yet. Can you afford it? He looked at Alex with a cruel smile and continued. If you can't afford it, please leave right now. Alex stuttered. He felt in his pocket and realized that he only had $10 on him. There was no way he could afford to pay for a meal in that restaurant. He didn't know what to say. Daryl saw him hesitate, and he gestured toward the door, indicating that he should leave. Please, he said calmly. I can afford it, Alex said in a loud voice. He couldn't stand to be humiliated in front of Leona. He needed to prove himself. He looked at her and said, Wait for me here. I'll be back in 10 minutes, and I'll treat you to the best dinner you've ever had. He turned to Daryl and said, Wait here. I'll be back really soon, and then I'll buy her a delicious dinner. He turned and ran out of the building. He took out his cell phone and immediately called Ken Stokes to ask him to unfreeze his credit card so that he could buy Leona dinner. But he only heard the engaged tone coming from the other end. He tried 3 times but couldn't get through. Then he tried Sam Woodsworth and then Graham Sterling, but no one answered their phones. Ken had made it clear to Alex that as he was still looking for Debbie, the family would not allow him to use any of his family resources. He knew that the family was extremely strict about this and that he must obey their orders. Alex hit the wall with his fist. His knuckles started bleeding, but the pain in his hands was only a fraction of the pain in his heart. What do I do? He asked himself. I don't want to let Debbie down. The situation is so unfair. He walked out onto the street with his heart in turmoil. He took out the $10 bill from his pocket with disgust. He was the oldest son from the richest family in New York, and he had only $10 to his name. He suddenly heard a faint voice with a foreign accent calling, "Sweet corn cobs, lovely sweet cobs of corn." Turning into a narrow street, he saw a middle-aged woman in plain clothes sitting on the curb with some corn cobs spread out next to her. The woman looked very poor. There were hardly any customers walking on the street because of the rain. Her clothes were wet, but she still sat there and tried to sell the corn. Alex couldn't help but think of Debbie's mother, Carla. When Carla was in New York, Alex had paid for her room at the Azalea Guest House. They had talked together about many things. Carla had told him that she had worked very hard to pay for Debbie to go to school when she was a child. She'd often had to leave her at home alone when she went to work on a farm. At that time, Debbie was young and foolish. She used to hear from other children that their parents had taken them to fast food restaurants to eat hamburgers. She heard from her friends that hamburgers were delicious, but she had never tried one. When she came home from school, she told Carla that she wanted to eat a hamburger and begged her mother to buy her one. It was a very difficult time for Carla. She had no spare money to buy hamburgers, but she felt sorry for Debbie, so she bought her one anyway. Debbie ate it, and it was as good as her friends had said. After that, she asked her mother to buy her a hamburger every week. Then one rainy day, Debbie had gone with her class to visit the museum. As they walked there, she had seen her mother sitting on the roadside selling sweet corn. When her teacher told her that the corn was only 50 cents and the hamburger was $3, Debbie started to cry. She ran to her mother and hugged her for a very long time. Finally, she started to help her sell the corn. Debbie didn't find hamburgers so delicious after that day. Whenever she thought of them, the thought of her mother's misery and toil only came to her mind. From that day, she thought corn was the most delicious food, although she often couldn't stop herself from crying when she ate it. Thinking of this story, Alex approached the woman. When she heard the sound of footsteps, she turned to look at him and said, "Tender corn, fresh from the fields, sweet and delicious." He looked at her wet hair and sodden clothes and was moved.
Please subscribe to the Pocket FM YouTube channel and press the bell icon for instant notification. Check out our channel for more such exciting shows.